Citroen have a long history of making these quirky and slightly eccentric cars, but they've always been really comfortable. It's amazing what they've done with the suspensions over the years. But now, they might be back on form. They're talking about well-being, that's their marketing slogan these days. This is the Citroen C5X, and we're going to have a good look around it and tell you what you need to know about it. So what is the C5X? Is it an SUV? Is it an estate, a shooting brake? Well, even Citroen themselves don't quite classify it. So you've got a little bit of extra height for that SUV effect, but we can see that kind of fastback estate style just here. Now, this whole black pillar part here at the C-pillar, that's actually one-way glass, and we might see that when we go inside later on. Now, in terms of wheels, we're on the 19-inch alloys here today, but these little black parts, they're actually plastic inserts, helps a little bit with aerodynamics. Now, they do go down to 17s if you're at the lower spec, but when I was speaking to the guys from Citroen at the launch, they were saying that they're not going to sell many of those, so you're probably going to get the 19s no matter what you get. But it's a really, really interesting shape. 6 colours available. Comes standard free colour is blue, and after that it's just a variation of whites, greys and black. But yeah, I think overall I like it. Like this little chevron effect here in the lights. Let us know down in the comments, what do you think? Let's have a look around the back now. At the top here we've got the spoiler, but there's actually a good bit of space under there which channels air down over the back screen because we don't have a wiper blade. Now Citroen say that, you know, it cleaned itself with the air flowing over. I haven't found that to be fully the case. There's always a little bit of water on it, or in this case a few little leaves just there. Anyway, let's open up the boot. Significant size this car, it's 4.8 meters long. So it should be a good bit of space in the boot, and we do have that. Now, you can get it up to 545 litres if you're going for the straight petrol versions. What we have here today is the plug-in hybrid, so it's a little bit smaller at 485. But I do like the fact that it's flat. We have a little optional extra here, which is this kind of rubberized guard. If you're throwing the dogs or a bit of dirty equipment in the back, it's great. But even if you don't, you've got those loading rails just there, and then a little hatch for a tiny bit more space under there. We can put a couple of charging cables and stuff like that. Ski hatch just there, 40-60 splits on the rear seats. If you want to put that out, you're out to either 1480 or 1540 litres, so good bit of space there. And secret little trick, pull on those levers just there and that'll drop the back seats down and just load bigger packages straight out. Let's talk powering the Citroen, because we have a few different options here. Now what we have today is the plug-in hybrid, but let's start off with the cheapest model, and that's going to be your 1.2 litre 130 horsepower engine. Now I had that one only for a few minutes at the launch day and felt a little bit sluggish, could do a little bit more with a car this size. So then you can get the 1.6 litre, and that has 180 horsepower, gives you a little bit more pep in there to carry the bulk of the car. But what we have here today, and you can see by looking inside how incredibly busy it is, it's the plug-in hybrid version. So you've got your petrol engine, that 1.6 litre 180 horsepower, but we've also got an 81 kilowatt motor in there. Now that's good for give or take about 100 horsepower. Put it all together in this plug-in hybrid version we have, and you're out to 225 horsepower. So it's got a nice bit of grunt in it. Nice thud, nice sound off that door as it closes. So we're inside the C5X now, and I have to say it is very, very comfortable. For a few people out there, it might be a little bit busy as you look around the dash. There's a lot of different materials going on here, but they all feel and look very well, I think. Now there's 3 different tones, Citroen call it, that you can get inside here. Different feels, different kind of stitching in the leather and stuff like that. So overall, what do we have? Well, there's a 12-inch screen just here. Now you don't automatically get that, depends on the spec that you go for. And there's a decent amount of functionality here as you tie in with the My Citroen app. But for me, it's just not executed particularly well. I think that it's a fairly good resolution on the screen, but they just didn't quite get over the line in terms of usability and intuitiveness. But overall, I do really like it. You've also got this driver's gauge just behind, and that's showing our battery percentage, speed we're going, which mode you're in and things like that. But you've got a really good heads-up display here that will show your navigation. You can click on one of the stalks here and it'll give you a little bit more information about your driving economy, directions, obviously things like that. So I really am impressed with that one. You can actually change the height of it as well, depending on your own preferences. Otherwise, we've got all the kind of traditional luxuries in here that you might want. You know, smattering of buttons on the steering wheel for voice activation. You just say hello Citroen and that will come to life. Yeah, kind of like it. Now, I have to say, it feels really, really good. Now when we're out and about, we'll talk a little bit more about how it feels to drive around, but in terms of just a comfortable cabin, they really have done this quite well. We have to talk about comfort when it comes to the C5X, and we're coming up to a series of ramps just here, and this is where the car just sings. Like, look at that, right? We'll meet this next ramp now at 50 kilometers an hour there. Barely moves. It's just an incredible suspension on this. Now, I've driven a good few cars over the last year or two. We seem to be in a different one every week. And this, in terms of the suspension setup and that ride comfort, is probably the best I've driven in a long time. It really is incredible. And it's down to the suspension. So it's an active suspension. Each one can be programmed individually, but you've got your dampeners there, you've got the coils, then there's another dampener as well, and it's just so soft. You've got laminated glass here as well. There's good sound insulation in and around the wheeled arches, and it's just the most comfortable thing to drive. It's absolutely incredible. We need to talk about money though. How much does this car actually cost? Well, you're looking at starting off at about 37,000 euros, and that's for your basic 1.2 litre petrol engine. Now, even just from talking to Citroen, probably not going to sell a lot of those. It's a very, very big car, and 1.2 might struggle to hang on to that. But if you step up and you're going for your 1.6 litre engine, then you're starting off at around 48,000 euros. And at that stage, it's a much more compelling car. But for me, maybe the option is to look at that plug-in hybrid. Now, you can go well up into the 50s, of course, as you go up through the different levels of specifications, but you get so much more, and you won't be a long time making back that few extra quid as well, because you're driving on cheap electricity so much of the time. Rake and reach adjustment on the steering wheel here, which is great to have, because we want to be sure that the passengers and the driver are comfortable in terms of space also. I've got the seat set up for me here. I'm 6'2", about 1.88 meters. Got this adjusted for my position. Let's pop in the back now and see what it's like for the passengers. Nice and easy to step in here because we've got a decent sized aperture to get into. Now, as you said, 6'2", and I've still got space here. It's really, really good. And in reality, you could probably put that a few centimeters farther forward and still be comfortable. Head height, I've about that much there, 2-3 inches. So decent amount of space, but it's very, very comfortable. You've got nearly a flat floor here, so the passenger in the middle will also be comfortable. Plenty of ISOFIX points for baby seats, and it's just the quality that you get in the front is carried through to the back as well. These are nice, comfortable seats. Okay, let's talk about what it's like to drive the C5X. So it's a plug-in hybrid, as we've said, and that gives you a number of different modes that you can drive in. So there's a little toggle switch down here for drive mode. Now, let's put it straight up into electric. So now the petrol engine is completely decoupled, it's turned off altogether, and we're driving on electric power only. And it feels quite peppy as well, because you get an almost immediate return once you do press the accelerator. Now, because it is a plug-in hybrid and it has to toggle between, and the gears are there, it's not as immediate as you would get in a fully battery electric car. And you're driving along and you press it, there's that half a second delay where you're switching from regen back into the electric motor driving you forward. But still, it's very, very comfortable, and you'll knock a good 50 kilometers out of it in most driving. I've even gotten it up to 60 on a drive home from work one day. But then, yeah, as I said, there's different drive modes. So we can go up into hybrid is the next one, and that's what we're in now. So now the car will choose what's the most efficient way to drive. So at the moment, we've got the petrol engine on. That is driving the wheels forward and at the same time charging the battery. And the fact that it's in hybrid now, we're going downhill. If I take my foot off, the engine turns off and it's charging back up the battery with the weight of the car going downhill. You get regenerative braking. After that, then you can go up into comfort, which is a mode that I have enjoyed driving in because it is quite comfortable. Imagine that. And what it seems to do is that transition between the different gears when the petrol engine is engaged or the electric motor, it dulls that transition and you don't feel that jerkiness. Now, anybody who's used to driving an automatic petrol or diesel won't bat an eyelid at that, but anybody who's been driving electric for any period of time will notice how jumpy they are as the engine tries to pick his gear. Whereas comfort just dulls that and makes it a little bit more enjoyable. And then we have sport, which I'll put it up into now. That just turns the engine on, makes that throttle response a little bit keener. And yeah, you get everything. So when you plant your foot, yeah, now that's the thing, once again, being used to electric cars over the last few months, I plant my foot, 3, 2, 1, gear, gear, now we go on. Whereas in an electric motor, you've just got that immediate hit. But as I said, anybody who's used to driving petrol, diesel engines will not even bat an eyelid at it, and will probably actually feel quite peppy. Let's talk charging this. Okay, so you can get it in the 1.2 or 1.6 litre petrol engines, but it's the plug-in hybrid that we have here today. And things get a little bit different. Not everybody's fully used to it. So this is where you will fill it up for electricity. Petrol's on the other side. So you've got your Type 2 socket just here. Now you plug that in at home on just a regular 3-pin cable, the granny cable as they call it. You're looking at filling up the battery in about 6 hours, give or take half an hour thereabouts. But if you find one of those on-street chargers, the ones that you see in car parks and by the side of the road, you'll get a full charge in about 1 hour and 40 minutes. But what does that mean? So range in this, Citroen are advising 55 kilometres. But we actually did a test where we drove from the AA offices in Dublin out to close to our houses in Drogheda. We did that 48 kilometre journey and still had 20% of the battery left when we got home. Now I think full speed up on the motorway, you're not going to get that. It's down at around the 30 kilometre mark. But as people are pottering around in general, solid 40 kilometres out of the battery in this. Now in terms of efficiency, you know, you're buying the plug-in hybrid because probably you want to just possibly do your part for the environment, drive on clean miles when you can, but also you might be thinking, well, I got a tax break on it because I want to save money, and then also when I'm driving in electric mode, I'll save a few quid on fuel costs. And you know, you probably will, because this car will do a good 50 kilometers in electric, and you know, you're only going to pay, let's say at home you're paying 30 cents a kilowatt hour, it's just over 10 kilowatt hours of battery, so €3 to get you, you know, that kind of 50 kilometer mark in general. But here's an interesting case, because I've had the car now for, this is the 8th day that I've had it. It's going back very shortly. I've probably done about 900 or 1,000 kilometers in this car since I've had it, going to a few different events. And I've been charging it up at night, at home, when I'm there, and then driving electric as much as I can. But in that time, I've used less than half of a tank of petrol to do that 900, 1,000 kilometer distance. So you will save a few quid if you want. But if it's just pure money you're trying to save in terms of fuel costs and running costs, then electric will be better. I mean, whether you like electric cars or not, or you agree with them or disagree with them, hate them, they are cheaper to run. There's no question about that. Another thing to mention is the cruise control system, because this is a very, very comfortable motorway cruiser. For me, you just pop it into comfort mode, or even hybrid as well, and you just sit back on the motorway. It does have an adaptive cruise control system, which is quite it's very, very good to have it in those long motorway drives. And I've done a couple of them over the last week. So you just sit in your lane, and the car knows when it's coming up behind another car or a truck in front, and it will just ease off and track the car, and you can set that distance that you want. Then whenever you're ready, if you want to overtake, just indicate, move out, the car will automatically move you back up to the speed that you had set it at. Now it doesn't go quite as far as some other systems, you know, when you compare it to the Kia Niro EV I had last week, or even the Tesla, any one of those, it won't actually steer for itself. There's a little bit of lane keep assist, but it'll only just about kind of help you, you know, warn you if you're veering off, as opposed to actively steer the car for you. So it's time for some concluding thoughts from us here at the AA Ireland on the Citroen C5X. What do we make of it overall? Well, do you know, I've had it for a week now, and I've done about 700 or 800 kilometers in it, so you kind of get used to it, and it's grown on me more and more the more I've driven it. I have to say, I've really enjoyed it. Now, when you put it into electric, all electric mode only, you get about that 50 kilometers range, and it is supremely comfortable. You get the benefits of that smooth ride from the electric drivetrain, but also the suspension in this is incredible. Just the most impressive thing I've driven in a long time. But the problem for me then comes up when you run out of battery, because it's only a small battery, and you just go, why didn't they just make a fully electric version of this, or even put in a bigger battery and a more powerful motor? But overall, it's really, really compelling for the right person. Now, there's a lot of people out there that are going to run out and buy an Audi or a BMW or a Mercedes, and they should stop for a second and think about this. Now, I'm not saying this is better or they should buy this one, but they should just stop for a second, put it on the list, take it for a test drive and see how it feels.